Hi everyone, welcome us to Mentors. Today I have the great honor to interview John Lott. He's an American economist, political commentator, and he's also the president of the Prevention Crime Research Center. Hi John, nice to meet you. It's an honor to have you here with us today.
Well, thank you, Anna. It's great to be here.
So John, we know you are a security expert, but we would like to know how and when do you become an expert control gun?
Well, I'm going to have a PhD in economics, and I've held positions in both the government and in universities. Economics has a couple basic ideas. One of the basic ideas is if something's more costly, people will do less of it. If the price of apples go up, people buy fewer apples. But it also applies to crime. If you make crime riskier for criminals to engage in, they're going to engage in less crime. Higher arrest rates, higher conviction rates, longer prison sentences all make it riskier for criminals to go and engage in crime and will reduce crime. But you can do it in other ways too. The fact that victims might be able to go and protect themselves can also deter criminals from committing crime. And I've probably read thousands of trial transcripts when I was chief economist at the U.S. Sentencing Commission. And one thing that comes across very clearly is that criminals are like anybody else. If they can commit the same crime more easily, they're going to do that. So if I see a drug dealer down the street and he has lots of money, but he has lots of guns, I may decide, nah, it's too risky to go after him. But if I see a small lady crossing a parking lot late at night by herself, she may look like a really easy target, and a criminal will go after somebody like that. And so, these ideas of incentives and costs play a big role in crime and how to fight it.
About this topic, John, how we could prevent do people use weapons in a way that harms society, for example?
Right. You prevent them in the same ways you prevent crime generally. So in the United States, about 92% of violent crime has nothing to do with guns. But if you increase, the same way you reduce violent crime generally is the same way you reduce crime with guns. You arrest people, you convict them at higher rates, and you put them in jail. And it's the threat of those penalties which can deter them from engaging in crime.
Tell us about also your teacher life.
Well, I've been a professor for most of my academic life, most of my life. I've taught at Stanford, University of Chicago, the Wharton Business School. I was at Yale for a while, Rice University, UCLA. So I've kind of bounced around. I've been in both law schools and I've been in economics departments, and I've been in business schools at Wharton and at UCLA. I've also taught in public policy schools. So as an economist, you can go in lots of different areas there because it's the basic idea of if something's more costly, people will do less of it applies to lots of areas in life.
We know you also are a writer. You have written several books. Which of these books are like the critically acclaimed, like the bestseller?
Well, my book, More Guns, Less Crime, from the University of Chicago Press, probably sold the most of my books. I think it's something like about 170,000 copies of that book, which I think is maybe the second best-selling book from the University of Chicago Press. I've written 10 books altogether, and they cover a range of issues. Some of them are kind of pure economics issues. Some of them are deal with crime.
Is in your plans continue writing?
Well, I think I probably have a couple more books that I can write.
Now tell us about your Brazil experience with gun control.
Right. Well, we just mentioned the book More Guns, Less Crime. That kind of started the trajectory on guns. I hadn't really been interested in doing anything on guns. I'd been doing a lot of work on crime. But guns had not been an issue of mine. I was teaching at the Wharton Business School at the time, and I made the mistake of telling some of my students that we were ahead in the syllabus. And so a couple of students came up to me after class and asked me if it was okay. They knew it wasn't exactly on the topic of the class, if I could go and talk a little bit about gun control. And I said okay, and that forced me to read through more of the literature. And at the time, I was pretty shocked by how poorly done the existing academic research was in the area. And so I started getting into it, and one thing kind of led to another. The problem is that what makes something newsworthy, in journalism,
Yes.
doesn't often always reflect reality. So, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have two news stories. In one case, there's a dead body on the ground, sympathetic person like a victim. In another case, let's say a woman brandishes a gun, the criminal runs away, no shots are fired, no dead body on the ground. You're not even sure what crime would have been committed in that case. If you're an editor of a newspaper or a TV show, which story are you going to run with? It seems pretty clear. Almost anybody would pick the dead body that's going to be there. Now, we know 95% of the time that people use guns defensively, simply brandishing the gun is enough to cause the criminal to go and break off an attack. But that's not going to be the percentage of the news stories that are out there. You almost have no news stories about the brandishing. Almost all the news stories are going to be about somebody being killed or at least wounded that's there, even though those are in reality just a tiny percentage of the cases.
So I read something about the concealed carry law in Florida,
Right.
and it says it's a law to carry weapons in public places. But which are like the restrictions?
Right. Well, Florida is now one of what we call 27 constitutional carry states, where you don't need a permit to carry a gun concealed. If you're a law-abiding citizen and you're legally able to own a gun, then you're able to go and carry it. But you have to have it concealed on you.
Okay.
And in Florida, you can carry it most places. There are going to be a few places where people can post signs, if you're a private business owner, that says people aren't allowed to carry there. And there's some federal laws on where you can go and carry a gun. But the vast majority of places, people are able to go and carry guns. One of the interesting things is that you hear about mass public shootings in the United States. The thing is, about 94% of the mass public shootings occur in those tiny areas where people aren't allowed to carry. But they know if they go to a place where victims aren't able to defend themselves because it's a place where guns are banned, then they'll be able to kill more people and get more media coverage that's there. And so they try to pick places where their victims are not going to be able to stop them.
About this, I read, for example, in Japan, it's almost impossible to get a gun even to protect yourself.
Right, in Japan there's about 420,000 people that are legally licensed to own a gun. So that's a pretty small percentage of like 127 million people or something that they have there in the country. But Japan has had strict gun control laws since several hundred years. It's been virtually impossible for anybody other than a very small group of people to be able to go and get guns. And there's some other countries like that. One of the things that's interesting is that if you can look to see where guns are banned, where they previously were allowed, and we have crime data both before and after the ban went into effect, every single place in the world that's banned either all guns or all handguns has seen murder rates go up. You'd think out of randomness, once or twice it would go down or at least stay the same, particularly if you think on net guns are bad. But the problem is that when you do something like have a gun ban, you have to find out who obeys the law. You may take a few guns away from the criminals, but it's primarily the good, law-abiding citizens who are the ones who are likely to turn in their guns and obey the law. And if you're disarming law-abiding good citizens relative to criminals, you actually make it easier for criminals to go and commit crimes.
Finally, you wrote a book called Gun Control Myths.
Right.
What is this book about?
Well,
Because the title is very interesting.
Well, thanks. I appreciate you saying that. Well, it goes through 45 different myths that exist on guns. So I'll give you one example, and that is the claim that the United States is somehow unique in terms of mass public shootings. That's simply not true. The United States makes up about 1% of the world's mass public shooters over the last 20 years. even though we make up almost 5% of the world population. So we're way below the world average. What happens is people don't adjust for population differences. I'll give you an example with regard to school shootings. Since 2000, the United States has had 10 mass public school shootings that have occurred. These are shootings where 4 or more people have been killed at a school. Germany has had 3. Okay, 18 people killed in one, 17 people killed in another, 6 killed in another one. But the thing is, Germany has 80 million people. The United States has 330 million. So if you adjust for the population difference there, that's as if the United States had had 12. Or you take Finland. Finland has about 5 million people in it. So that's like less than 1/60th the population of the United States. They've had 2 mass public school shootings. People don't think about them, okay, because they say, well, there's only 2 there, okay, compared to 10 in the United States. But you wouldn't compare the number of murders in Ecuador with the number of murders in Brazil, right? You'd adjust for the population differences that are there in order to make a comparison.
Thank you very much, John, for this interesting information, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Anna. I greatly appreciate it.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you all for listening to us, and my name is Ana Sanchez, and I will see you in the next episode.